Turn that shit off. Hey there, beer tubers. Welcome back to Maxwell Star's poor example of Beer Analysis 101 this week. And this is a very special, I thought it was the 10th episode, but it's actually the 12th episode of Beer Analysis 101 on my channel. But tonight we've got a special
that
beer
include
here
the
for
original episodes?
Shut up. It started when I started. No, it didn't.
Okay.
I don't remember how many Lee did, and now we're making things complicated before starting the show. Anyway, we're taking a look at this very special beer that, you know, as much as I'm making fun of him right now, Greg, thank you for sending this to me. We're taking a look at Founders Canadian Breakfast Stout. It is an Imperial Stout brewed with chocolate and coffee, aged in maple syrup bourbon barrels. We'll go into more detail of that in just a second. First of all, let's introduce the panel. First one I introduce, I'll start from probably the start of what everybody else is seeing. But Lee, the artist formerly known as Hoogly, how you doing tonight, sir?
Good. Never play that fucking national anthem again.
Sure. What, you don't like the CBC's 1980s national anthem thingy?
No, I hate Canada.
Oh, shots fired.
Why are you even here? Anyway, moving right along, Chris.
They have full new strip
Chris,
clubs here.
Mr. On the 10th.
Hello. How are you?
Back, though.
I'd like to say hello to all the viewers out there. Rain on your parade. How's it going? You're probably handling.
Yeah, I don't know. Who's in the chat right now.
Just happy to be here, just like every week.
Mm-hmm. Make it sound exciting.
I am. I'm excited. Super excited.
All right, moving right along here. The next one across is Greg, which we've already heard from tonight, so we can just move along. I'm kidding. Hey, Greg, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. My wife just finished her periods for the next 3 weeks.
The next 3 weeks, Ewart can have fun.
No, he has it during that off week. That's his Ewart's time.
Oh, he's like in baseball where he's a switch hitter.
She has her needs.
The pinch hitter, I think it is, right? In a pinch.
Oh.
All right. Moving right along, and someone we haven't seen on here. I mean, we see him in the chat all the time, but someone we haven't seen online talking to us in a while. Jamie, the Basement Beer Reviews. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, pretty good, Nick. My speakers weren't working, so I couldn't hear what was said the last few minutes, but I'm sure it was nice.
Sorry, you didn't miss anything.
And unlike Lee,
that was intelligent.
Yeah, unlike Lee, I love Canada. And
heard that part,
I only drink American beers depicting Canadians and watch movies that make fun of French accents. Thank you for having me.
And lastly, speaking of Americans with Canadian accents, say Joe, Average Joe. How are you tonight, sir?
I am fantastic, Nick. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay.
Okay, I got 3 things. Number 1, why do we invite Greg? Is there an answer to that? There's no good answer. I got it.
Because I elevate your show into something awesome.
It's nobody's show.
At least me.
And you do not. You do not elevate anything.
Joe,
Number 2.
I think the answer to that one is rental friends.
Hang on. I don't want anyone talking over me,
Okay.
Nick.
All right.
I'll settle down. Number 2, everything that Lee said, I condone. Don't ever play that intro again. And I also hate Canada. And I'm good.
We'll remember that next time you come across the border.
Yeah.
And I thought you had a third thing.
No, that was 2 lumped into one.
Okay. Well, you're still wrong. Anyway, moving right along. Yeah. Founders Canadian Breakfast Stout. Let's get into the long spiel because I spent all night talking on Chris's channel trying to write this damn thing, but I couldn't pay enough attention. Hopefully I got this. It's not like you guys are reading this, so you can't tell if I made any spelling mistakes. I just hope I have this history right because I imagine there's people out here that know a lot more about Founders than I do. Anyway, so Founders' story begins in 1996 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, when home brewing enthusiasts and recent college graduates Mike Stevens and Dave Engers joined to form a microbrewery. Dave Enbers had a vision of bringing back the tradition of brewing in West Michigan and spent some time researching names for the city's old brewmeisters at the Grand Rapids Public Library, looking for a business name that he and Mike Stevens could agree on. They first chose the name John Pennell Brewing Company, named for a Grand Rapids brewery that existed between 1838 to 1844, but they would later settle on the name Canal Street Brewing Co. in 1997. The Canal Street Brewing Company was named after the brewing district in the 1800s, early 1900s in Grand Rapids. Brewery labels originally included a black and white photo of Canal Street breweries with the word Founders above it. Eventually, the brewery became known as Founders Brewing Co. because of this, though to this day the official registered name remains Canal Street Brewing Co. LLC. By the mid-2000s, Founders had become one of the most prominent craft breweries in the USA, being sold in over 37 states. It's expanded to 46 today. By 2012, they were the 30th largest craft brewery in the U.S. and 17th largest craft brewery by 2014. I have no idea where they are at now. In 2014, though, Founders announced a $35 million expansion to increase their volume to 900,000 barrels a year, which I think is getting pretty close to Moosehead levels. In December 2014, Spanish brewing company Mahu San Miguel, everybody probably knows what San Miguel lager is, bought 30% of Founders. While not a controlling interest in the brewery, it was over 25% or less ownership requirement by a macro brewery set by the Brewers Association, causing Founders to lose their official craft brewery status officially. Anyway, Founders is definitely well known amongst the craft beer enthusiasts here. So they make many beers that are well known. Such as, of course, the Founders Breakfast Stout, which is an oatmeal stout made with imported chocolates and coffee. Their All Day IPA, Rubaeus Raspberry Ale, Double Trouble Double IPA, Backwoods Bastard, many others, and of course, famously, the Kentucky Breakfast Stout, which is an imperialized version of the original Breakfast Stout, cave-aged in bourbon barrels for an entire year. And if that sounds good, Founders Canadian Breakfast Stout, on the other hand, which was first released on tap only in 2007, according to End of the Symbiosis. I couldn't find much information about anything earlier than 2009, but if Dan Harper knows what he's talking about because he's from West Michigan. It was first released on tap in 2007. Is made in the same beast beer used in the Kentucky Breakfast Stout, except it instead is aged for a year on bourbon barrels that were previously used to barrel-age maple syrup from Bliss Gourmet in Grand Rapids. It was only ever bottled once in 2011 and severely limited to 1,000 cases of 750 milliliter bombers. The rarity and reputation of the beer led to CBS being listed on many best beer lists of all time. And currently sits at 12th overall in Beer Advocate, 10th overall on RateBeer.com, and 7th global top beer on Untappd. CBS was released once again as the final release in 2017's Founders Backstage series. I think it's actually the Barrel Age series. This batch weighing in at 11.7% ABV and was released to U.S. customers on December 31st, 2007 for about $25 a bottle. As an added bonus, CBS was also released at LCBO stores in this size bottle. What size bottle is this? 355 milliliters. At about $8.50, was it, Greg? I think it was $8.50 a piece.
I believe it was exactly $8.50.
All right, cool. Yeah, so this is awesome. We got this apparently super rare beer that's been released only for its second time ever, and we're all holding one. So, does anybody actually even have a history with this beer? Lee, did anybody ever send it to you?
No, this is my first time trying it.
First time trying it. All right, Chris, did you have a chance to have one of these beforehand?
No, I did not. But one person on this panel did, and that's the guy on the end from the USA.
Yeah, I imagine he did. But let's speak about the guy in the middle, because I imagine the guy sandwiched in between all the other guys is had this at least more than once, and that would be Greg. You've had this before. What's your history?
No, it's definitely not the first time I've been sandwiched between guys. Yeah, I definitely have had it before. I've not had last batch. I've only had them from this batch.
Okay.
This is my 6th bottle I've had, and that's all I'll say. But that's my history with it.
What's your history? You bought these back in... When did you buy them?
December? Early December, middle December, something like that. So that's my incredibly exciting history.
Mm-hmm. And how? And Jamie, did you have a chance to have this already?
Yeah, I was able to pick up a few. So I have one left that I'll probably age for a little while. I'm not going to keep it for long, but sometime in the summer I might have it. and I've had one previous. So right when I picked it up, I did have one, and it was good.
Ooh,
I liked
cool.
it.
Anyway, cool. And Joe, did you have this back when it first came out?
No, I did not have the bottled 2011 edition. That was only a couple years after I got into craft beer, so it wasn't all about that life, yo. But one part of your history that you may have missed just because they probably didn't mention it, but they re-released the beer draft only in late 2014, early 2015 to most of the distribution areas. So it actually showed up here in the Western New York area. I believe it was early 2015. And a friend of ours, friend of the show, friend of a lot of the Canadian beer tubers, Aaron Doucette, he actually came down from Canada. He hung out with me, and we went to the first, like, whatever, tapping of it at a local craft beer bar, him and I. And then later in 2015, I had it again at another beer festival. So that was the draft-only release, and I think it was distributed to all distribution areas for Founders on draft. So that was the first time I had it. So it was like, I think it was early 2015. And then, I bought a few bottles of this year, and I also had it on tap this year. So, yeah,
cool. Mm-hmm. How many bottles did you buy this year?
Just a couple.
Cases.
No, honestly, I only bought one Americanized version. The $25 $7.50 ripoff. And then I actually got two of the Canadian version via one of my other Canadian friends. So I only bought 3 bottles.
You got somebody to come up for. I was going to say, it's like, damn it, you come for Canada for this.
No.
Don't come to Canada for, what was it that you missed the last time? Really? I forget. Short memory.
Yeah, enlighten me. What did I miss?
Oh, we've been trying to get you to, what beer was it? There was one we did a while back. I think it was Mill Street.
Yeah. Listen, I'm never crossing the border for a Mill Street product. Just saying. It's not happening. If someone wants to bring me one, or if I'm over there already and then I'll do it. But it's Mill Street. Come on, bro.
I don't know. Right now, I'm just trying to delay you and make you talk longer so I can enjoy this and
I was saying
thoughts. Because we had such a short intro here.
Isn't it a CBS glass, Joe?
No. So I am rebelling it up and drinking out of KBS glass because, proper glassware, hashtag, fuck that hashtag. So, yeah, good times. All right, Nick, what do we got going on?
All right. Well, let me see here. I wasn't expecting to have such a short section here. Usually I like to have a chance to enjoy, but is Lee, are you ready to just spill out some thoughts on this?
Yeah. So I can't speak for the 2011, of course, but this version of it, I gotta say, it doesn't wow me all that much. It fits the style perfectly. I'll give it that. It looks the part. Dark mocha head, you can't see through it, so it looks perfect. It smells great. It really smells fucking awesome. That extra little kick of maple in there really brings out like a more pronounced sweetness. You get more of the vanilla. You get a ton of fucking chocolate in it. When I first poured it, it started out, you got a big burst of the alcohol in the background. That settles down quite a bit in the aroma, and it just smooths out to this like really nice kind of confectionery kind of stout kind of thing. So it smells great, but I get into tasting it here, and to quote our friend Paul, it's a bit thin. It really is. All joking aside, it feels a little thin for the style. I think I'd be generous saying lower medium bodied on this thing. It's kind of skirting that line for me. Not a lot going on, I don't think, in the complexity. Maybe it's just me, but it feels like there's some nondescript kind of baker's chocolate dryness, a little bit of just regular sweet chocolate going on. You definitely get the maple, but this is a problem I found with a lot of beers with maple in them. If they have a higher alcohol, that alcohol and that maple, they kind of combine together in a really unpleasant kind of way where it can be a little too cloying, I think. and that's kind of what I'm getting from this. Don't get me wrong, overall I really do enjoy this, but it is a bit of it is a sipper, even though it really kind of has no right to be in a certain way, because it should be smoother than this, I kind of feel. But I guess in a awkward offhand kind of way, it's kind of good because it just makes you sit back and sip it instead of chug it down, because it just feels like one of those ones where you can get too cloying really quick. So, I mean, do you want me to give my ratings?
Might as well. Davey, you writing this down?
Cool. So
Thanks.
for style, I'm going to go about 8.5. I think it's fairly close to perfect for the style, but it gets knocked a few points just for some drinkability issues and maybe lack of complexity. And overall drink for me, I've had way better. I'd argue honestly that I enjoyed KBS better as well as I can remember it. Honestly, maybe it's just the maple thing doesn't do it for me quite as much. So I'm going to go 7.
Cool.
Harsh, but
There you had it. We're all done. I think that's pretty much settled. Sorry. Chris, what do you think?
Well, I took it out of the fridge and it was still really cold when I poured it into my glass, and I sipped it right away and all I got was burning. But as it sits here, honestly, as it sits here and I warm it up, a little cupping of the glass, the alcohol astringency disappears right away. And I think I know what Lee was talking about when you add the alcohol with that maple, and it doesn't make it a very smooth kind of drink. Do you know what I mean? So it's good. I really enjoy this. Is it outstanding in my opinion? No, but it's very sticky. It's leaving my lips like super sticky. Probably the maple in there. Probably a little bit of that chocolate in there. I don't get a lot of maple off this. I do get a ton of chocolate off this. So I don't know what else to say really. It's as it's warming up, it's getting better. I'm just telling you that right now. So with in style, I gave this an 8 out of 10 with the style, and for personal preference, personal taste, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. That's all I got.
That works for me. Greg, imagine you got some differing opinions because I think you said you love this beer, don't you? You're giving the head right now, so you must.
I do. Yeah, I kind of agree with what was said. I kind of don't. I think this beer is a little on the sweet side. I could use a little more balance, but that being said, it's not cloyingly sweet. It is okay balance. I would like something else in here. I think this beer would be an easy 10 out of 10 for me if it had chilies in it. I think that would just sort of give it that extra little whatever to put it over the edge. As it stands, it's a really solid beer. I really liked it. I think I may have given it a perfect score on Untapped. I'm not going to go quite that high. I think I got a little too excited with the first bottle I had. You always get excited with your first, right?
A little overexcited.
In terms of this versus KBS, I've had two different kinds of KBS. I've had one that was spectacular, one that was not so good. Both supposedly from the same batch, definitely not the same beer. I know your batch variation, shocking. The KBS I've had that was spectacular is better than this. Easy 10 out of 10. The KBS I've had that's not as good as this. So that's kind of it. Sandwiches right in between. That seems to be a theme this evening of sandwiching right in between. I'm still going to give this a pretty high score. To me, it's a 9 out of 10. For style, I don't know. What is it? It's a Russian Imperial Stout that's barrel-aged with a bunch of adjuncts in it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a very specific style.
Chocolates, oatmeal, coffee.
Doesn't it fall under like flavored stout category, I think, maybe?
I would consider it a flavored stout because, I mean, it's barrel-aged, but it's also barrel-aged in barrels that held maple syrup. And I remember reading somewhere where they said something like there was like maybe a gallon of maple syrup left in the barrels, like soaked into the wood. So it would have absorbed that.
Yeah, and so it's ground. Sorry, it's ground coffee in it, right? So it's not like they're using it's not like they're getting the coffee flavor so much from like roasted malt as they just actually have ground coffee in the actual beer.
At least you're getting all that, when you taste it.
Yeah, exactly. I like that you can basically taste a little bit of everything. So, I mean, it's good. Like I say, I mean, for the style, I can't give it any higher than 9, which I know is still pretty high because it is really good for a flavored stout. But like I said, you throw some chilies in here, and this would be an 11 out of 10. And I'm going to go a 9 for preference, too. It's a great beer. I'd drink it anytime, but it's not quite up there to be perfect for me. But it is really, really fucking good.
And it's funny you mentioned that like this would be great with chilies, because looking at Bliss's website, the people that use the barrels, bourbon barrels to mature their maple syrup, and what they have a contract with Founders is, I was looking at their website, they have a special batch of hot sauce they make that's like kind of like Tabasco sauce, just Louisiana red pepper sauce, aged in the barrels that once held Founders CBS. And I'm thinking that would be interesting if maybe. I'd love to try the hot sauce, but what if they took the barrels that had the hot sauce, had the CBS in it, and then aged the beer in it again? And it would, of course, be a limited release and be completely experimental, but it'd be kind of interesting to see what the like hot pepper barrels beer would taste like.
They'd have to really wash those barrels, I think.
Yeah,
I'm kind of thinking.
Well, that's it. I mean, it could be overpowering. Anyway, moving right along, Jamie. What's your thoughts?
I actually have exactly what Greg is saying. 9 and 9. I really.
I knew that Jamie was a good guy.
Yeah, it's for me. It's a really good beer. I like it equally with KBS, and it's a nice amount of everything. Like just that little bit of chocolate, little bit of maple. It's not too much of anything. So for me, it's just a really nice drink, and it's a once in a while drink. So whenever you're in the mood for something like this, for me, it's highly enjoyable. So 9 all around, love it.
9, right on. And Mr. Beyond Average Joe.
Well, we have Matt from Massive Beer Reviews in the comment, and he posted a comical comment that kind of pokes fun at people who like to say the whole last batch was better. The last batch I had was far superior and whatnot. As he states, this year's version was nothing like the 2087 version. Future stouts for the win. Now, Matt says that, obviously, jokingly. Matt has reviewed this beer this year, and he kind of has the same opinion that I do, which is kind of similar to Lee's, but not quite. It's like a little bit of Greg, a little bit of Lee. I know no one ever wants that.
Yeah.
That's a bad combo, right? It's terrible.
Let's make a cocktail.
Now having this in 2015 on draft, different. You're getting it on draft. You're not getting it out of the bottle. It's 3 years ago. My palate was different. A lot of differences. A lot of factors to consider. The thing that I get from this, which is I feel each one of you is pretty much stated, except for you, Nick, because you haven't went yet, is that the maple does not come off as maple. It comes off as a confectionery sugar-like component to this beer. If I was to hand you this beer blind, I don't think anyone could distinctly say that's maple syrup in there. You would say it's sweet.
No, I agree.
But it's a confectionery sweetness. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell exactly it's maple syrup. And that's the biggest issue that I have with this beer compared to the past version that I had, is that it has that confectionery sugarness. And it also doesn't have the cohesiveness or the balance that the version that I had before had as well. That said, I still thoroughly enjoy it. Where I agree with Lee is that this beer is definitely thin, but Paul made a good comment as well, saying that KBS is actually kind of thin. If you compare it to other like 11.5%, 12% stouts, you're talking about a beer that is a bit thin. This is a bit thin as well. But what makes up for it for me is the fact that it has this nice creaminess to it. The mouthfeel is like a soft, creamy, almost luscious mouthfeel that kind of lets me forget about the fact that it's thin. I enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it as much as the old version. It's one of those things where this is a great beer. I think it'd be hard pressed to find someone that's like, this is trash. I mean, it's a damn good beer.
No,
no, there are people out there that think it's trash. Trust me. Just get out on tap.
High level, I think, though.
Yeah, but
I imagine there's people who's like, oh, this is garbage compared to compared to the 2011 release and some
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, and again, it's comparing not apples to oranges, but it's you can't compare 6-7 year gaps. Just like I'm
apples to the memory of an apple you ate 7 years ago.
And I'm on, like I said, I'm comparing this in my mind to 2015, but it's unfair for a multitude of reasons. So I get that. But for me, as far as the beer stands, what I'm drinking, I'd probably give it, as far as stylistically speaking, probably around a 7.5 and 8, because I don't pick up on the maple syrup, because it is thin for the style, and because there's so much going on in here. It kind of lacks complexity. I think Lee mentioned that. For it being in maple syrup bourbon barrels with chocolate, coffee, a big 11.7% stout, it's super easy drinking, which is great, but it lacks complexity that I think other beers in this style have. So I'd say like 7.5 for me.
Saying it's because beers evolved so much in the last 7 years that now this isn't as complex as some of the stuff that's out there and amazing.
No, I'm saying that this is 11.7% beer that has like 75 things in it, and I get 2 of them. And I think that's like for the rest of us. It just has the perfect word to use this in a lot of respects for everything. It's very generic tasting for what you're getting. Like, I can't sit here and pick out 6 different characters. It's good. I really like it, but it's nothing mind-blowing. So I'd say 7.5 for style. Personal enjoyment, 8.5, 9. I'll go 9. I'll give it a 9 because I think that's what I gave it on tap when I had it on tap last month. It's, like I said, it's a damn good beer. And I think people who don't like this beer probably don't like the style, or are doing the whole comparing it to, long ago. You got to compare. You just got to drink it and, give your opinion on what we're drinking out of this bottle right now in our glass. And I feel it's a 9 out of 10 for sure. It's a great beer. It's just, it could be better. And it gets a lot of hype. And that's the thing. I think that it gets so much hype that you're expecting the world. And I think at least half of us are somewhat down from what you're kind of expecting. So, let the hype win. Let the hype win.
And you know what? I think the beer, it kind of half lives up to the hype. I was kind of expecting maybe a tad more. But I kind of see what you mean by the lacking in complexity part, but I think I would propose a counter argument saying that it's not that it's lacking complexity. I think that all the different flavors that exist within this beer both are similar and also blend well into each other and becomes kind of like this cohesive unit as a beer. It's like you get this rich roast dark chocolate. Like the notes that I wrote down here is that when I first sip it, I get a nice like touch of warming bourbon mixed with like a little hint of vanilla, a hint of toffee. I get very much like a chocolate liqueur, like the chocolate liqueur candies that you would eat.
Right.
Coffee, like confectionery, right? Coffee liqueur really reminds me to a degree of like Kahlua. And I do get the maple sugar. Perhaps maybe I only notice it because I'm seeing maple written on the side of the bottle. But the maple sugar that I'm getting out of this is kind of like a lower grade maple sugar, right? The higher grades of maple sugar are usually the cleaner and clearer maple sugar grades, like harvested from earlier in the season, where the sap is more runnier and they get more sugar to the rest of the crap that's in the tree's content. But later on in the season, that the maple syrup comes out darker, and they're considered the lower grades. But really, it's the lower grades that have the more sugar, but they're also very like dark and deep and robust maple syrup taste. And I kind of get that dark, deep, robust maple syrup kind of character that you would get. Like it's almost roasty in its maple syrup quality, and that kind of blends right in with the coffee, blends right in with the chocolate, and it kind of melds into one big cohesive unit. Like it's like vanilla, chocolate, coffee, and that maple that you can barely tell is maple. In the finish, I got like roast coffee finish with a little bit of earthiness in the back, and a nice roasted dark chocolate flavor, like one of the like the 80% or 90% dark chocolate bars that you would eat. That said, though, it is very sticky, which I like. It's not as smooth as I expected trying to drink this, because I was expecting like creaminess going right down my throat from what everybody was saying, and it ends up being a little bit rough and maybe a bit boozy. It's definitely a sipper, and we lost Joe. I guess he didn't like my response.
This is so unprofessional.
His internet just down, so Greg's gonna have to read comments.
Oh,
right, cool.
Well, this is professional.
I will note, now that I'm interrupted, I will note that it kind of gets smoother as it warms up. maybe breeze a little because some of that booze is kind of dissipating away. And here's what I think ultimately about this beer is that I think my second bottle of this I'm going to sit on for a while because I think this thing could age. And I think the age would actually do it some good. Maybe crack it open in a year or so. Overall, I think for the style, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. There's better. I think I like KBS better than this. And overall enjoyment, definitely another 8.5 because I love it. Again, not maybe as much as I like KBS, but this is still quite a fantastic beer.
So this is overall. I think we're all saying this beer is like it's passable. It's not as good as MGD.
I don't think there's anybody saying that's not passable.
Yeah,
it's no MGD, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, well, that fucking review was on you fucking assholes that did that review.
But yeah, well, girl, Joe, we were just saying that it's not MGD good, but it's good.
Oh, no, for sure. And my internet literally crapped out. And I was like, Greg's going to have to read comments. Your channel's going to delete it.
Shit.
Everything bad was going to happen.
I know. It's all the sexist twist on it.
There's no sexism. We love women.
Anyway.
I feel like I rage quit.
There's nothing else. We love women.
Is what I did. Because you were talking to me about how this was a cohesive beer. And I was like, you're fucking wrong. I'm out. So that's what happened.
Well, that's what I thought. I was like, as soon as you did that, I was like, oh, Joe doesn't agree with me.
No, I mean, it's agree to disagree. I don't, for me, the confectionery sweetness, I think, Lee was talking about how it was a bit sweet and that's kind of predominant note. That's kind of what I'm getting to. I think if that was dialed back a little bit, the more of the other flavors came to the forefront, it would remind me of what I originally had it. And I think that's just kind of what's put me off slightly to this. Again, when I say put me off, I mean, kind of like Greg was saying, this was a 10 out of 10, like top 5 beer for me for all time, but now it's just a 9 out of 10. So I'm going to drink.
So what you're saying is that it's not as good as the 2011 or 2014.
Yeah, because that's what you do. You shit on the new versions because the old versions are way better. For sure. It
was like cooler when I had it.
Yeah, when I had to kill 3 people just to sneak a 5-ounce pour, it was amazing.
Jamie's ready with the scores.
All right, Jamie, what's your final tallies?
And I muted Greg just so you know, because we all knew what was coming next.
Greg
style 8.4, and
you always know it's coming with me.
Oh,
personal 8.3. So 8.4, 8.3. Clearly not as good as 2011.
Yeah,
clearly not as good as MGD.
Clearly not as good as MGD. Yeah, it's actually.
And when
I think we rated MGD pretty fucking high. Yeah. All right, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's move over to the comments. Who wants to do the reading? Is that Joe?
I mean, I guess I could do it. I mean, it's your channel, Nick. So I mean, I could read them probably a quarter the amount that Greg can, but
Well, the thing is, people watch this so that you can read the comments like it was Canadian Beer News.
Oh shit! Here we go then.
No skipping comments, Joe.
Raining on your parade. No, I'm gonna skip a lot of comments. Trust me. Raining on your parade has 4 not quick comments, so we'll read them. He says, first off, a big fuck off to all the CBS drinkers here tonight. First off, I've never had CBS. That's on him. He says, I was not going to pay $29.95 for a bomber bottle. Also on him. And says, when I saw it a month back. And he's also had many batches of KBS. That's on him. No one cares. He also continues with, to make up for this, a few days ago, I found Lagunitas Willati's Coffee Stout aged in rye oak barrels. Stuff is awesome. Did not see this beer around at the normal stores. Found it at a store. Good job, Jay Terrio. Continuing on, he says, it does not carry much. That beer store does not carry much beer, a health food store. It was $12.99 a 6, so I bought a 12-pack of this for less than 1 bomber of CBS, and it's 12.6 ABV, so suck it, alcoholic. And Rainy Eye Parade continues with, cheers to all the beer tubers. I'm not one, so I knew exactly where you're going there, Rainy Eye Parade.
Right, association there.
Yeah, that was for me and you. No, I love Rainy Eye Parade, except for I don't. Jace Westcott says, remember the beard loves you, but he spelled beard like red beard. What guy?
That's creepy. That's creepy.
Yeah, and then Jace Westcott says CBS costs $8.50 Canadian for a 355 ml bottle in Ontario, which we covered. And he says also hi to Chris. Rainy Eye Parade says, I don't think it was released in 12-ounce bottles in America. No, it wasn't. It was released in every other country but America in 12-ounce bottles. Drunken One says, evening, gents. Jace greets him. He asks if you follow me. He's asking for subs. I don't know what's happened. Jace Westcott says, I always watch these, even if I can't get the beer. More power to you, but also that's on you. Rain Guy Parade says, Joe, I believe you have a 12-ounce bottle. Where did you get that? A ferry. His name is Nick. No, I got it from another Canadian friend that isn't a beer tuber that came down and brought a couple bottles for me. So I appreciate it. No, not Greg. Not Greg.
You were totally
I already read Matt's about the future stouts, which is pretty good. And then Jace does the from Massive Beer Reviews little thing.
Beer reviews.
Yep. Then right now you're afraid to ask Matt about the Lagunitas beer, and he replied with it. He liked it. PA Brew News, a little dig at the entire panel, but more so on Nick because this is all on him. He says, good shit, better than KBS. And then responds with, thanks for holding back CBS until next week when I am off. Cheers. Nick, do you care to explain yourself?
Yeah, because Jamie was around this week and he'd already talked to us about it.
Oh, get shit on Paul. Jamie is better than you. This is according to Nick, not me.
Well, to be fair, Jamie's better than most.
He already spoke up, so yeah.
It's all on Nick. Just want to let you know, Paul, it's 100% on Nick.
And this is a show for Canadians.
We love you, Paul.
Reviewing a beer that honors Canada, and so we had to kick you off.
And they replaced
Americans.
Yeah, they replaced you with me. I know, terrible on them.
Yeah.
Okay, so he also says, fuck Mill Street all day, but straight out of the fermenter, it's a 10. I like that dig, Paul, and I agree.
Total 10.
That is a reference to Chad giving the vanilla porter from Mill Street a 10 out of 10 right out of the fermenter, but then re-reviewing and giving like an 8.5. But anyway, he also says it's all good. It's a bit thin, but KBS has always been a bit thin, which I also agree with. Not extremely thin, but it is. And then he says the biggest bitterness here is coming from Lee and not from the CBS. Damn.
Bitter Maritimer.
Love you too, Paul.
Motherfucking bitter Maritimers. I remember someone saying that at some point. Probably pretty sure it was Paul.
Bitter fucking Maritimer.
Earth says, cheers, gentlemen. Cheers, Earth.
Cheers, Earth.
And then he makes fun of Chris by saying burning. Jesus, Chris. Yeah, right out of the fridge. Chris the Riot.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Paul continues with the Canadian bitter sourpuss's comment. So not all of the Canadians.
Yeah, get a new theme, Paul. Moving on.
Yeah. Jace Westcott says, do you think the maple faded a little?
No.
No, I don't. No, I think it just has changed from like maple to, or slight maple into confectionery sweetness. Again, these bottles are, it's been in the bottle it was in the barrels for what, a year? So, I mean, it's been in the bottle for what, a couple months. It's not like it should be fading at any point.
This isn't Canadian maple, is it? It's like from.
Oh, no. We're not good enough for Canadian maple.
Well, Michigan.
On that.
Yeah, so it's not real maple, so let's just move on.
No, there's some Mrs. Buttersworth up in this.
Yeah.
Drunken One says, y'all make it sound like it doesn't live up to the hype. I think that's the best way to explain this, Drunken One, is this beer's really good, but it doesn't live up to the hype.
Yeah.
Because the hype is something that you can almost not attain anymore with this beer. It has to be perfect, and
I love our Mounties.
Few beers live up to the hype. Paul says, personal preference, I've had bottles of it side by side on tap with KBS, and CBS is way better for me, at least. The aging on this fills the gaps to be that KBS has. Okay. And that's your personal opinion. If you were on the panel, you could say that, but you're not, so you can't. I'll read them, though. I'm reading for you, Paul. Continue posting them. Clueless Drunker Peter shows up and says, yuck, what a sausage fest. Yeah, it is a sausage fest.
Yeah, well.
Jeez, we needed you to add some femininity to it.
Paul says something inappropriate. I won't read it. Sorry, Paul. And then Earth says,
salty conclusion.
No, I didn't say anything. And then
salty
Earth
conclusion.
Says, no. Earth says, I could see someone saying it's garbage for Guinness. No doubt. Bet that's happened.
Probably
has. Oh, this is too bitter.
It's Chris. And then Peter says, Joe is so critical. # pray for Joe. Bring those.
We should pray for Joe.
But I still want more thoughts. That's all I want. Paul says, this stream ruined YouTube. # thanks for the mercy killing. Good stuff. Rajay shows up. What's up, Rajay? Says, what's up, guys? Just got back to the house. May join the after show if there is one. That's on you, Rod. Be prepared for Greg.
Yep. I believe we're at the after show tonight.
I'm drinking high.
Might as well mention it tonight.
Alcohol beer tonight.
Might as well mention tonight. I'm not hosting. Shut up, Greg. I'm not hosting the after show tonight, but Lee is. So direct all your questions to him.
So the invites are highly curated. Just saying.
So if you don't get an invite, it's because fuck you, Lee doesn't like you.
Pretty much.
Half the people on this panel.
Have a nice night, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't be getting it.
I don't think I'm even invited to this thing.
Lee's gonna sit by himself That's what he's going to do. That's his after show.
And it'll be a bitter Maritimer.
Yeah.
It's his
And it's
high
going to be way more
standard.
entertaining. Paul continues with a lower grade maple sugar. Nick, you Canadian hipster maple bastard. Rod responds to somebody, I believe it was Drunken One, asking him how he was, and he says, "Doing well, my friend, eating a little Wendy's and watching this fine cast of beer comes on here." Rod, you're such a nice guy, but don't lie to us.
Wendy's is so fucking good. I hope you got a triple burger.
You get a Wendy, like
That's
in
the way to
Breaking Bad.
Peter says, hashtag maple soy.
Crickets.
Yeah. Drunken
Maple
One
soy.
takes a dig at us, and I actually appreciate this. He goes, "Are you watching the same cast as I am, Rod?"
Yeah, good one.
It's pretty good.
Y'all
Paul said-
watch
That was a
this
good
podcast?
singer.
Paul says, hashtag high grade syrup or die. Jace Westcott says, Chris can't wait to drain pour it. He already has. Actually, he put it in his
Oh, yeah.
physics machine, and now it's uber smooth.
Yeah,
Um,
He had a bunch of ice cubes to it.
Clueless Striker Peter again says, hashtag artisanal maple or GTFO. Get the fuck out.
yeah.
Artisanal maple.
Paul, there's a lot of hashtags. I don't really want to read them, but I will. He says, hashtag Canadian drain pour. Earth says, I need to try the beer in bottle format. He's only had it on draft. What did you think of the beer on draft, Earth? Rating Air Parade comes back and says, Nick, I would go 6 months on that bottle. Coffee and chocolate fades, dog.
Dog.
No, I just hate him more. Yeah,
Well,
I just hate him way more.
Well, because I mean, people have reported great success with the 2011 bottling, having it years after, and I'm kind of wondering how much is the 2011 batch's reputation on top of its aging when most like the bulk of people who ever drank it had it. I think it's such a strong beer. At the same time, when I was doing my research for the show, I was researching off of Dan Ennis Symbiosis when he used to do reviews like way back in the late 2000s. And
Oh, shit, taking shots.
How long ago was it that Dan Harper did that stuff there, Lee? You know, better than I do.
I think he quit earlier than I did. So
Yeah, he did. Was it 13 that he did that? Because I remember that happening.
something along those lines. Yeah.
But he recorded a review, and in his review, because he's from West Michigan, and he was saying in his review that the first time it was ever bottled was in 2007, and all subsequent batches up until the bottling in 2011 were the same batch. Like every time they released it on tap, it was from the same batch. It was just kept from 2007. So I'm not sure of the validity of that, but I trust his judgment. And I'm kind of wondering if it was really good in 2009 after being aged and set at Founders for 2 years, then it was probably fine to age a little longer. But yeah, the coffee's going to definitely fade.
Yeah, and keep in mind when you actually say that word fade, it doesn't mean disappear. So many people have a tendency to say it fades, which you're going to get no coffee. It depends on how coffee forward it was to begin with, how chocolate forward it was.
And the coffee character is not necessarily going to fade away. It's going to change and do something maybe like a stale coffee.
Yeah.
The coffee's still going to be there. It's just going to be a very different character.
I agree. Then Peter says,
I ended up having like 2 or 3.
"You talk over me." Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead, chit chat. You talk over me.
love you, Joe.
You want to read the rest of the
Well,
comments?
Joe.
You want to break them?
Go ahead. You're good. I just wanted to add that.
No, I know it was a good. That's a good point. You made a good point. I agree. Peter continues with, and I said and this was a joking comment because I added to it, but Peter's being Peter because he Peters. He says, "quote Now just a 9 out of 10." End quote. Average Joe, 2018. Damn right.
Totally true.
And then Earth says, Earth misspelled draft, but that's okay. I read it correctly. Paul says the more availability automatically gets lower in score, and that's a good point as well. And another thing that people don't take into consideration, the first time it bottled 2011, that's 7 years ago, I bet you can count on one hand the amount of maple syrup, bourbon barrel, imperial stouts with coffee and chocolate were available in 2011, and how many are available nowadays. It makes a difference. Flavor. Yeah, it's something mind-blowing, and it has never
and
been
not only that,
before.
there's also the impression of it being so rare back in the day. They only made 1,000 cases of it. And if that's the situation, then it's probably the rarity. It's like Westflutter in 12. It's the rarity plus the taste of it. It's a good beer, but it being super special makes it even better.
Yeah,
if that's the thing.
No, it's a lot of things influence how people feel about a beer, and definitely the hype and
now it's more common. Like, I got this at the LCBO. It's good.
People could walk in the LCBO and buy whatever the hell they wanted if you were around Toronto or any of the big areas. So it's like, I mean, it definitely plays a role, no doubt. Peter continues with, if you aren't getting a pilot brew pour straight from the fermenter, it ain't worth shit. Number one, settle down, Chad. Number two, you're right. No, it's how a lot of people think nowadays. Rod continues with, he found the peanut butter victory at sea from Ballast Point and looking forward to trying it.
Ooh, interesting.
Nice.
Peter says, honorary Canadian, what did Joe do to deserve that? Proximity, I guess. Proximity is the best I can think of. Paul says he didn't buy this beer for the hype, of course. I got it because it sounded tasty in the face. Yeah, well, I mean.
Yeah, and you enjoyed it, so win-win.
Yep. Jamie says, hashtag, instead of maple, faple, I believe. It's not gonna, I'm not going to say fapple. I'm not going to say fapple. I'm going to say
Fapple.
We're going to go faple.
Like
we're going to go faple. Keep it PG.
Fapple syrup.
Paul says, sad and glad I wasn't a part of this. Cheers, guys. Still love you and all your stupid palates, but it's a personal preference, and everyone knows the good batches were only put into the 750 milliliter.
I love how he defends his personal preference by putting a caveat on there, like, it's crap anyway, so, you know, there was only one good batch.
Those 355 milliliter bottles are shit.
Paul, you thought Yingling tasted like an American Wild Ale. I'm done. So...
Gotcha.
Rainy Iron Parade says, I opened a 1-month-old batch of KBS and the chocolate and coffee was gone. Oh. I mean, I've opened like 3-year-old ones and they've been there. So I mean, I
think
batch variations. What was that shit bottle of KBS you had there, Greg? Was it the same kind of idea? The chocolate was gone or what?
Yeah, basically it was missing a lot of the different flavors that made KBS interesting. It was just kind of a meh barrel-aged stout, not even a particularly good one.
But it was same batch, right? Like actual, like where you bought them at the store, it was like they were all on the shelf at the same time type of thing?
The ones I had that were spectacular were from one store. The ones that I had that were mediocre were from another store. But I assumed they're all from the same batch because it was all the same batch that was sent to Canada, but maybe it wasn't. Or maybe the storage conditions were different. Maybe the LCBO fucked it up somehow. I have no idea. All I know is that, you know,
maybe
and
it was a barrel at Founders that had oxidized or something.
Well, I don't know. I even did it blind just to make sure I wasn't crazy, and I still came to the same conclusions. So
now this is a serious question. Serious question, Greg. Did you cleanse your palate with a dill pickle when you had the bad one? Because I feel like you didn't.
You know what, Joe? I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that question. No, I didn't.
I know.
I'm a poser. I'm a poser. I'm not a true beer person. I'm actually, you know what? I actually just put chocolate syrup into a Coors Light. I got this empty bottle off of eBay. I can't even drink a stout. I don't even know. Like, if it's more than 4%, I can't do it. So
that makes a lot of sense.
I'm sorry, guys. This is my secret confession, and I'm sorry for anyone who believed in me. I've failed you. I'm basically the Harvey Weinstein of YouTube.
Greg Reggie this analysis.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He totally did. He just outed himself too as a terrible person.
I think the proper thing to do when Greg's around is just not have high expectations.
True.
Let's get the comments first and get out of here.
I also molested Ethan. That's why he doesn't show up anymore.
Oh my lord! All right, so Jace Westcott, I'm going to actually ask this later, so we don't 75 people don't start discussing other things. So I can read these comments. Redbeard says, "Ahoy hoy." Yes, hello, Redbeard. Paul continues with, "This is the first ale aged in maple bourbon, so I guess I also enough so much." Okay, Paul. Paul, are you talking to your phone like your chat?
Paul's been drinking.
Yeah, I think he's saying. He's saying it's the first he's ever had of this style, basically.
Yeah, and he has nothing better to base it off of, and I think okay, that's fair. Ring Air Parade says he's talking about the Lagunitas Willowtize Coffee Stout. He says 12.6%.
Again, not the beer we were doing this week. Thank you, Raining on Your
Settle down, Raining on Your Ontario. Paul says, "Yeah, Lee, I was joking. Learn to take a joke, man. So serious tonight. You're making the child in my trunk cry."
Well, you should have killed that child by now.
Yeah, this is turning pretty dark. Peter said Greg had
like dark maple syrup.
Peter said Greg had an OKBS.
That British wit comes through. There we go.
And then
That's
Paul
good.
has 2 last comments. Then I'll read the Jay's comment. Paul says, "Epic background, Chris," and he says, "I don't drink ales, only stouts."
Oh, okay. Good clarification there.
And let's not forget,
yeah.
Drunken One said, "Hey, Beard." Don't skip comments, Joe.
Don't encourage Redbeard.
When they're dumb, they're dumb. Oh, it's Drunken One. It's not as dumb. If it was Redbeard, it's definitely dumb. But whatever. Yeah, so they're greeting one another in the comments. I don't read them. Here we go. Jay says, and I don't want to step on Nick's toes, so Nick, you can answer this. I don't want you to yell at me. But what's the beer for next week? Nick, take it away.
What's the beer for next week? Next week, we're gonna do Grolsch.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
for no other excuse that I want to crack open this big ass motherfucker.
Oh,
Look-
I had
look
a
at
giant
the
bottle for
size.
Christmas and I drank it.
Sorry, you can buy another one.
Nick, we
Bring
got
the
it.
Listen,
swing top,
listen,
bring
listen.
the cans, smoke them if you got them.
Massive swing top. But
Okay,
yeah, you
you
don't
have
have to
about your
get that.
penis there, tripod.
Yeah, I don't get Grolsch.
This is a tripod beer after all.
We don't get
He's
Grolsch
only
in
a
America,
tripod because he likes camera
Bullshit.
equipment for no other reason, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And Red Beer and Drunken One found it amusing that you read their comments and I didn't, but it's all in good fun. Red Beer and Drunken One, you guys know that. Jace Westcott says, "Nice, Grolsch is easy to get." You know what's also easy, Jace? If you get
Coming
I
out
don't
of
know
the panel.
a cheap webcam and just, as they say in the YouTube world, cam up and get on here and just talk about the beer. You know what? I would say you don't even need your face on here, just your audio. Just get a microphone. Jesus. All right.
We're
Anyway.
actually
Just have the top of your
Jason.
head like I usually do.
Unless he shows up.
Maltmaster. We got Maltmaster, aka Sage, in the chat. Hey Sage, how you doing?
Good day, Malt Master.
Good day. Good day,
Yeah,
sir.
that all does it all for comments. Appreciate everyone commenting, except for raining on your parade. You added nothing to the conversation. Don't ever do it again.
I think you stopped watching the beginning. He's going to rewatch it later.
No. It's it's,
Once we censored all the bits with Greg out.
he terrioed the shit out of this.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, I
so
think
We need
in
to
about
censor Greg.
10 minutes or so, the after chat will be on my channel. Don't go begging for fucking invites. I invite who I want to fucking invite. So if you're not invited, you're not invited. Don't cry.
Hey, you hear
about
that
it.
rating on your parade? You hear that, buddy? Don't ever ask for an invite. Not welcomed.
You just pretend that Lee is like the
That-
guy at the bar holding the gate, unless you have an invite.
It's the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
That being said,
Bouncer.
if you don't get an invite and you're not happy about it, you can contact Chad, the albino rhino,
Yep.
and he
Yeah,
will
cry to
help
him
you.
about it.
He
Cry-
will help you out. So
he's
please
my
send all your
handler.
messages to him.
He's your handler.
Even
You're-
though I've
you're
hardly
fluffer.
talked to, even though I've hardly talked to him in half a year now, he's still pretty much my handler. So there you go.
That's how it works.
Right on.
Well,
All right.
I'm gonna drink pour this, so I'll meet you guys back on the. I'm just kidding. I'm not drinking.
I'm gonna drain pour this thing, but I'm gonna drain it down my throat.
Yeah, to wrap it up, it's overhyped, overpriced, better 7 years ago, but don't buy it. But totally buy
Brain
it.
poor swill.
It was
And,
definitely better in
yeah,
2076.
I will say, all things
7 out of
considered,
10.
all jokes aside, all Jamie aside, which Jamie's fantastic, but little less Jamie, a little bit more seriousness. Like Lee, in the States, it's not worth $24.99 to $7.50 mil. It's just not. And it's ridiculous that they didn't bring the 12-ounce bottles to America, because if they would have charged $7-8 American for it, well worth it to try it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I get why bringing on your
these
parade
little
didn't-
guys, I bought a few. If it would have been the big bottles, I would have bought one.
No, and I get why ring on your parade
Exactly,
would
yeah.
drop $30 on it. It's a lot to spend on something that might not live up
If
to
you
that.
translate that into Canadian, that's like into the 40s. So that's a lot for any beer.
Like honestly, in Ontario, if it showed up for $40 a 750 milliliter bottle, I bet almost none of you buy that, or you buy one bottle and you get disappointed because
Like,
it's
as
expensive.
excited, let's say for here in New Brunswick, as excited as I am to see like brewery products here. Like we even got 10 ladies. It was a 10 something dancing, or no, not 10 ladies dancing. The one that came after. Anyway, point is they're charging like $23 a bottle for it. That's sitting on the shelf. I'm not getting into spending that much money on beer regularly anyway, unless it's really good, which I don't get the indication that some kind of special Imperial wheat is a fucking good beer.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough said. I think we pretty much summed up CBS in a long-winded. Fuck, we've been doing this for almost an hour.
It's worth it though. It's I mean,
Yeah.
it's no MGD, but I mean, it's close.
Yeah, it's not
Wow.
MGG.
MGD.
But,
MGD is a
definitely-
special handcrafted product.
it definitely
It's like
went
aged.
down.
GD in my fridge.
Aged MGG.
Yeah, MGD will it physics?
Physics.
We'll find out online because I'm not opening up another bottle of this. I'll do it later.
Yeah, well, it definitely went down pretty easy. And just to leave you some parting thoughts, there's a redheaded and a mounting heater for. All right,
Yeah, nice wig on her. That's terrible.
nice.
I'm
Way.
assuming,
Is
I'm
that a
assuming
minute
I
for
get
everybody?
invited to.
I know,
I get
man.
invited to the
All
after
right.
chat. You get to see me drink this.
Ooh, I thought you were saving that for me.
Oh, I've got like another 12 bottles.
Yeah, he's a hoarder, Nick. Nick, he's a
Yeah.
hoarder.
The double tempest slut. Anyway,
Yeah.
yep.
Again,
we'll
not
talk
as
to
good
you
as
over
not as good as
on-
it used to be. The only
Good,
thing
take
that's
a-
better is women.
Okay, let's
God
just
damn it,
fucking
Greg,
let's
shut
hang out
up.
now, please.
All right, everybody.
Fuck.
We'll see you. We'll see you in about 10 minutes over on Lee's channel. Hoogly, just Google Hoogly Beer Review.
Bring your bullshit
Find
to my chat, for fuck's sake.
it.
So much
Exactly.
anger, Jesus.
So
Terrible.
we'll see you over there and shut the hell up. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.
We'll see you soon.
Christina, show we kill those women.
Guys,
Leave-
we disconnected
leave rage quit.
accidentally.